What's up, Trojan fans? Welcome into the USC Trojan Brotherhood. It's me, Ryan, here with my brother Matthew. If you're familiar with the channel, or at least what we used to be, this is now an exclusive USC Trojan content channel. We're really excited to keep pushing forward. Nothing's going to change about what we do, just going to be more SC stuff. So if you enjoyed it previously, hopefully you'll enjoy it even more now. Big news came out. Well, actually, allegedly big news. I'm going to be honest, this channel is about truthful, honest takes and how we see things. SC hired a GM. Truthfully, don't even remember his name because this is it's very far out of my depth. This is how I'll start it, and I'm going to toss it to Matthew, who is by far the authority of us two. SC hired the Notre Dame GM on the heels of their crushing title loss to Ohio State. And this is a big deal, allegedly. Matt, can you explain to people like me who still can't really understand what the point of a GM is in college football? Can you please enlighten us into what this improves?
Yeah, so it's really a huge deal because what are the complaints kind of about Lincoln Riley? The guy's really stubborn, and what USC has done really poorly is kind of identifying recruiting talent, developing them, and putting together rosters. Like there's no cohesion, there's no identity in the rosters developed. Chad Bowden was basically in charge. He was the recruiting director essentially
Okay.
at Notre Dame. So he had a massive impact on recruiting for Notre Dame. He was like Marcus Freeman's guy. So when Marcus Freeman was promoted to head coach, he was promoted too. So he had a massive impact on the teams that they put together. And obviously, Notre Dame has a great identity right now. I mean, I can't stand them, but you got to admit it. They're just in the national championship game, and their thing is toughness, line of scrimmage, offensive line, defensive line. They run the ball. They produce tight ends. And so what Lincoln Riley and USC has not done well at all is put together rosters. I mean, it's like the high school guys, they all transfer out. There's no identity. We've missed on transfer portal guys. And more importantly, we've spent money poorly. We're recruiting guys from Georgia who we pay them and then they flip to their home state because how are you going to poach them away from Georgia? We're paying Bear Alexander, who was a locker room cancer and didn't even play past the fourth week. So you bring this guy in to kind of put another voice aside Lincoln Riley in terms of what the roster is going to look like. That is what USC's paying him for. Is like his body of work in recruiting and roster management at Notre Dame was obviously incredible. And so with Jen Cohen, who I think is a great AD, him and Lincoln Riley together, they can put together better rosters and we'll spend money better because the confusing part about the GM, essentially he has a massive impact on the recruiting and the roster construction, which USC has really struggled with, Lincoln Riley specifically, and his stubbornness. And maybe by getting this hire, obviously the recruiting and the roster will be better. We'll have an identity because you mix Lincoln Riley's, they call him the QB guru, and what he did at Notre Dame. If you can bring that here with the offensive line, the defensive line, we become a tough physical football team, and we also have Lincoln Riley as the quarterback guy. That can be a relationship that works well. What I'm hoping for is this can kind of stabilize the program and Lincoln Riley doesn't have to do too much because he has really struggled with it. And Lincoln Riley can just focus on play calling. He can go back to X's and O's because he was an incredible play caller with Oklahoma. He has shown that in his tenure here. It's just a lot of mistakes, a lot of why aren't you running the ball? So hopefully he can get back to play calling. And I'm really thrilled because this guy, it's nice to take someone away from Notre Dame. And the most exciting part is that Notre Dame, you look at the 247 writers, like this was a big hit for them. Like that, a writer actually even said that this was like, if Marcus Freeman could keep three guys and lock them down, he was one of those three guys. He was really that important in constructing a roster that eventually went to the national championship. So I'm really, really excited about this. I think it'll stabilize the program. There was no identity in the guys Lincoln Riley brought here. That's kind of how I felt like. And this is just going to go a long way for recruiting and more importantly, spending the money that we do have. Because we did have a conversation about like what is the GM going to do? Like at the end of the day, if we don't have money to spend, if the NIL, if we don't want to catch up to Oregon and Miami with the NIL, what good's it going to do? Well, you do have some money, and instead of blowing it on Bear, maybe this guy can help stabilize and get someone we actually could have needed. Because you think about it, we spent that money on Bear. There were like 4 massive defensive tackles in the portal who all had a phenomenal year. Imagine you spent money on them, you bring him in, that could have led to another win or two. So expect to see better rosters. Expect to see more recruiting, and maybe more the better play calling from Lincoln Riley because he doesn't have to do too much. And overall, this has been just the program's been Lincoln Riley. He's picking his guys. He's doing everything. And Jen Cohen, I think he's been a great AD. She brings another like big voice in here. I think that's the big thing for USC fans to understand. He's not just kind of nobody. He's going to have like a massive say, almost 50-50 with him and Lincoln Riley. So yeah, I'm really excited about this.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful explanation because I was not downplaying how much I like. We talk. I think we on one of our videos we talked about it, and just privately, like with my friends, with you guys. Whenever I talk about college football in general, I'm not even gonna make this a USC thing. I think of the concept of a GM, and I just like scratch my head as to what it would be. I know GM like front offices in professional sports are always the most important aspect of the team, just from team building and stuff. So I'm not I'm not stupid about knowing what it can like the concept of a general manager of assets can do. But I think the way before you talked about it, because genuinely did it help me understand a lot. The reason I didn't understand the necessity in college sports is because I perceive all college head coaches to be the most stubborn people of all time. So when I think about a guy like Lincoln Riley giving not ceding control of a probably the most important part of roster building, which is recruiting, I don't know who's going to do that. So to me, in that mind space, I was like, so this is just like a figurehead who talked to some recruits and like, oh, I like you. Like if Pete Carroll was the GM of USC football, maybe some players who were born after their golden era would see him and be like, oh, that's Pete Carroll. I'm gonna go there. Like, I thought that's what the extent was, but the way you laid it out actually does make sense. And if it does work out that way, where Lincoln can he still has to recruit. Obviously, all the coaches have to be present in recruiting, but if he can like give control of like the board, if Riley says this is the vision I want for the type of team we have, can you build me a recruiting board based on that vision, and I'm going to do my thing, just talk to the players and develop. If that can happen, I do agree that's legitimately a massive upgrade to what we have currently. So I appreciate the explanation. Hopefully anyone watching that had a little confusion like I did equally appreciates it. So yeah, I don't know how much more I have to say about it just because I'm literally barely learning, but I do think just the concept of having a guy that can just stabilize everything for the program, because this program isn't unstable, but it's also not, the foundation for it still isn't really built up, because the success we had in the previous Riley years was built on transfers. That I like you, another thing you said that I liked is like there was no vision. It was just, we need talent. So if you were okay to good at a school you were before, you can come here. And again, consolidating everything into a consistent vision. Like in the offensive transfer video, which we posted, if you haven't seen it, go check it out. We both mentioned the idea of an identity for the offense and like not adjusting to teams. I feel like a lot of the adjusting to the team's identity that you're playing comes from not having any identity of your own, whether it be structural or from a play calling standpoint, or just from players. If you have a bunch of different body types of players that can't really gel just because you needed some kind of talent, it's not really going to work well. So yeah, after hearing you talk about it, genuinely, it did make me really understand like the importance of having that stabilizing figure, which I knew was important in other sports. It's just for some reason college football, it never struck me as being like a possibility even. So I think all in all, pretty good stuff.
Yeah, I think one thing Liam Riley hasn't done well is build an identity, like you said. He actually there's a quote that actually always stuck out to me is like a reporter asked like what is the identity of this offense, and he said well, we're the highest scoring offense, that's what our
Yeah,
identity.
this
Like there was never really an identity. Notre Dame has always had an identity, so I hope he brings some of that over here. As for kind of explain mostly about how big of a deal it is, as for him specifically, I think he was like honestly the perfect hire. Obviously, you take him away from Notre Dame, 'cause screw them. We tripled his salary. Yeah, I believe it's
Damn,
$1 million salary.
big dog.
Um, I think if there's a program that you wanted to take from, because you're include, because you know your strengths already as
Hmm.
USC. We already have our strengths. If there was a program you could try to add to yours, not be like them completely, but bring their strengths and combine them with your strengths, I think it would be Notre Dame. Just because we're both so traditional, but Marcus Freeman and Chad as well had a part in this. They made it kind of cool to be with Notre Dame, which I mean I thought was impossible because I mean it's Notre Dame, it's the most boring thing ever, but they really made it cool. And
Yeah.
so you right now USC has a lot of buzz, and what I'll say what this means is no more excuses. Lincoln Riley has like maybe the most expensive defensive staff, one of the best defensive staffs in the world. He now has a GM. He has a great AD. The only excuse he does still have is the fact of NIL, and I'm sure Lincoln Riley defenders will continue to use that. But there's no excuse. This is the most important portal cycle ever because this team has a lot of potential. They have a pretty weak schedule, but they have a lot of holes. But they have a portal to address this. Hopefully, Chad Bowden can immediately make an impact. Massive, massive spring portal ahead of us, and it's really just going to show. It'll show us how this year's going to go because last spring cycle was a joke, and look what happened. We have some holes. Let's fill them. But yeah, I'm really excited about this hire. I think it'll help the culture. It'll help the roster construction, and of course, it will help the recruiting. And yeah, just really thrilled about it.
Yeah, for sure. I we talk about Lincoln Riley having a bunch of like reset, half reset years. I think this is officially he has defensive staff proven to be more than competent, like actively good. They're very well paid. You made someone you can argue an upgrade, even like bringing in a bona fide NFL defensive guy as an assistant as well. You have a GM that's proven to have success. Like you have the actual foundation, the infrastructure in the organization to be good. This is your new year one once again, but I'm like officially I'm comfortable saying this is like okay, you have this platform, you have another cycle of transfers, and you have the late enrollees in high school and a weak schedule, most importantly. Show this year that with support, you could really give tangible improvements. I'm not expecting a playoff team just because of the quarterback situation, but I'm also not expecting anything less than like 9-3. Like playoff contention is what I think is a very reasonable demand. Like something where it's not out of the question. And I think it's possible. So hopefully, with an actual real material foundation around him, he could feel comfortable, settle into whatever it is that he was lacking before, and just get after it. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Like we said, this channel exclusively USC Trojan. So if you are a fan and you are looking for more Trojan content, you know where to find us. We will be here always. Feel free to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. Fight on.